All right, students, welcome back. Welcome. I hope you guys are all doing well. As you get into the live chat today, can everybody give me a thumbs up to let me know that you're here? If you're watching the recorded version of this, if you have any questions, you can always post those below this video, and we'll be happy to answer those. Before we get started, if you're interested in joining the channel as a channel member, please make sure that you click that join button below. It only helps us make more of these videos. So even if you can subscribe for the $3 a month silver membership, which does give you premium access to me answering your questions, all that kind of stuff, we would love it, of course, because it would just mean that we could make more of these videos. Anything helps as you guys start to join the channel more and more often. And obviously, we love the participation. From a free standpoint, please make sure that you register your Star U student account. It's very, very important, as we talked about yesterday during the Writing and Language live stream that's now posted on the channel, that you have access to this because it's all free. And everything that we talk about today, all of the lesson plans, is all right there within Star U. So let me just post that in the chat. And then in terms of recent SAT videos that we've posted in the past, we did an SAT linear equations video that I highly recommend for anybody that's looking to improve on their math score. So most important concept of the SAT math. Okay, so that's also posted now within the chat. Anybody that's watching the recorded video of this, if you don't see it in the chat, we'll also post these as comments, or we'll try to post these as comments below this video after we're done when the recording goes up. But please, again, make sure that you guys are checking those out and kind of doing everything that you can to get ready to go for this. Okay? So as you guys get into the live stream today, can everybody give me a thumbs up? Thumbs up in the chat or a thumbs up below the video so we know you're here. If you don't want to type in the chat, you don't have to. Just a thumbs up below the video so we know who's paying attention. And then we'll get started with the SAT Math No Calculator section from the May 2021 US test. If you're interested, this test form can be found. If you click the link below this video, the test form can be found. Okay, there, and you can follow along. Finally, just make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel. Please help us spread the word. If you can't join the membership program, we totally understand. We don't want to make this about payment in any way. That's why we continue to do these free live streams. But help us spread the word and at least get subscribe yourself and help us get your friends to subscribe. That would be great. Okay, so for anyone so let's get started. So May 2021 SAT math test. For anybody that's ever been in our live streams related to the SAT math section in particular before, one of the things that you'll know that I'm adamant about before we get going on the actual test is that you set a goal score for yourself that does not involve the actual SAT score. Okay, what I mean by that is that as you guys look to improve on your math section, look to see how many questions you need to answer in order to achieve a certain score. So as an example, if you're trying to get to a 700 on the math test, right, which is an exceptionally high score, it's an awesome math score, then you need to know going in that this is not about getting a 700, it's about getting 49 between the two math sections. Okay, it's about getting 49 questions out of 58 questions right. And those can be broken up between the 20-question no-calc test, which is what we're looking at today, and the 38-question calc test. And does that make sense? Can everybody give me a thumbs up? Again, if you're looking to get a 700 or whatever your overall improvement, whatever you want that to be, 650 even, right? 650, then we're not thinking about this as getting a 650. We're thinking about how do I find 43 out of 58 questions that I know how to do, meaning that in the best possible way, I can skip 15 questions and still get a 650 on the math section. Okay, on a test like this, right, on the math section where everything is objective, I'm not trying to make this about strategy, about anything else, but one thing that we know about the test that's so important that we know as much as we possibly can before we start, because that will only help us with our confidence, is we know that every question is the same value. Can everybody give me 2 thumbs up if that makes sense? Every single question on the math section, between both sections, right, you can see that the whole thing is out of 58. Every single question on the no-calc and calc section are the exact same value. You don't get any more points for answering a hard question on the calculator than you do on the easy question on the no-calc. And so what that tells us, again, is that we need to find the 20 questions, right, that we can answer. How many of those can we answer? And then going into the test, we have to have it firmly in our mind that we can skip 3 or 4 questions on this no-calc section if we're looking to get a 700, or even 5 questions if we're looking to get a 650. That is so critical as you start to prepare for these exams, that you do not view this when every question is worth the same value. The ability to skip questions, to skip hard questions, right? And who knows what that relates to in terms of hard questions for you versus hard questions for me, right? I'm sure there are some of you out there who know certain concepts a lot better than I do, and thus your score reflects that. So those are the questions that we have to do, right? We have to do the ones that we know how to do first, and that's not a strategy thing. That is a definitive, objective. We have to be doing those things, okay? Because it is objective. All right, so without further ado, you want to set your goal number of questions that you're going to answer on the test, and then you're going to stick to that as you work through. And if you don't get every question right, it just kind of is what it is, and you're going to improve on the next practice test, right? That's got to be our mindset going into this. That has to be our mindset going into this. Okay, so without further ado, and welcome guys as you get into the chat. If you're just joining us on the chat, we're looking for. We're going to start the SAT math section for the May 2021 US exam. So you guys will open that here. Yeah, same. Hey guys, welcome everybody joining. Yeah, same thing goes for the reading and writing section, though on the math section, it's a little bit easier because you know what on math it's just a little bit easier to be objective. Taco, does that make sense? Like it's a little bit easier to be objective on these because you know what you know in math. Does that make sense? That's why I don't stress it as much on the first 2 sections. Reading and writing, though, it does apply. Every question is worth the same, so there's no reason to spend more time on a hard question than an easy one when they're all the same value. But on math, it's just a little bit easier to identify. You kind of know right away when you don't know something. And so that's why I'm so adamant about it on the math section at the very least. Does that make sense, guys? That makes sense. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started here with the math section. Math, no calculator. Guys, if there's ever any streaming trouble, of course, you could just try to refresh it. And yeah, we'll do more math, no calculator, absolutely. Okay, but in any case, guys, let's jump into this. So we're gonna again look at the math no calculator test from the 2021 May US exam. We're gonna put 25 minutes on the clock, and you guys will see that pop up here in just a second. And if you're interested in following along with this test form, you can find that in the description below. Yeah, same thing for reading, same thing for math, but again, the reading test is a little bit easier. The math test, rather, is easier to identify hard questions, so we don't bring it as much on the reading and writing and language, but the whole test is scored the same. The reading section is the same way. They score this reading section the same way. They score the math section the same way. They score the writing and language section. Okay? So, so let's get going here. And math no calculator from the May 2021 test, and I'll try to talk my way through it. Hopefully we can get all the questions right. We were 44 yesterday. Let's see if we can stay on that same track. Everybody ready to go? Can you guys give me one more thumbs up or a good to go in the chat? And let's get started here. Okay, one more thumbs up or good to go in the chat, and then we'll get started. So time starts now. Obviously we can't use our calculator going through this. Okay, so again, right away, this first question is very straightforward, and you'll know that I'm going to try to skip all word questions. If you guys have seen some of our other videos, you know the 3-pass method. Okay, 3-pass method. Okay, so I'm absolutely going to answer this first one because if I don't make a simple mistake, this one should be super easy. We're looking for the value of x, and we know that these are vertical angles, right? So we can say 5x plus 5, write everything out. Don't take any question for granted. You're not spending that much time writing this out, and if you make a simple mistake, then you're losing so much value because this question is not very hard, right? So just write everything out. Negative 2x is equal to negative 40, right? And then we divide by negative 2, so x is just equal to 20. So that one is super straightforward. I didn't have to think about anything there, and so I'm going to answer that. The second one is very straightforward. Right? What is the positive solution to the given equation? So far it doesn't always come up this way that the first 3 questions are not word problems, but it looks to be the case here. Or I guess, yeah, the first 4 questions. I didn't realize that was number 4. Yeah, so right on the positive solution, we're going to say 2x minus 4 is equal to 8. We're going to just solve 2x minus 4 is equal to 8, right? 2x is equal to 12, so x is equal to 6. If that would have been a negative solution, then we would have had to go back and solve it using the other way, right? 2x minus 4 is equal to 8, and then solved it that way. And maybe that's our positive solution of x, but in this case, we solved it just the normal way the first time, so we didn't need to go find the second solution for the absolute value problem. So I think the answer for number 2 should be C. But again, you either know that one or you don't. If you're not familiar with absolute value questions, then you just have to move on from that question. Does that make sense? Can everybody give me a thumbs up? Does that make sense? Fareed, welcome. Absolutely. Glad to welcome from Azerbaijan. I think you might be the first person that we've had from Azerbaijan, but welcome. Number 3, which of the following is equivalent? So guys, a couple things here. Anytime you see this word equivalent, you can factor the normal way, right? 4x cubed plus 8x squared. And on a normal question, on an early question like number 3, which we're assuming to be relatively straightforward, especially if it's not a word problem, we can just factor out, right, 4x squared from both 8 and, right? So we can say 4x squared on the outside of the parentheses, which means C has to be our right answer, but let me finish it out. 4x squared, x plus 2. But if you see the word equivalent, you can always go plug in a value for x. So again, on number 3, you probably don't need that, but you can always go back and plug in a value for x if you see the word equivalent. So you can just say x equals 4. If you plug it into this top equation, like if I said x equals 4 and I solved for this top equation, which is difficult when it's, you don't have a calculator, and I went and plugged in x equals 4 to answer choice C, those two would equal each other, and so you could do it that way on a harder equivalent problem. So look out for that word equivalent, because this means that it can be solved both algebraically and by just using numbers, picking numbers. Okay, what is the value of 6n? Be really careful, right? Read all the way through the question. What is the value of 6n, not what is the value of n? 2n plus 12 is equal to 26n, right? Minus 2n on both sides, minus 2n. So we get 12 is equal to 24n. So n, right, divide by 24, be careful, n is equal to 1/2. But again, everybody wants to go with 1/2. I can't tell you how often we see students circle D, right? Oh, n is 1/2, I'm moving through this test. No, right? That's the simple mistake that we can't make when we know how to do the problem. The answer is C here, because if they're looking for 6n and n is 1/2, 6 times 1/2 is equal to 3. But you can see how easy it would be to make a simple mistake on question number 4. If we know how to do it, we cannot afford to make a simple mistake. Okay, quadrilateral shown below. So remember that if a three-sided shape, right, three-sided, this is something that you probably want to keep in your back of your mind, right, it has 180 degrees. A four-sided shape, like a square, or in this case a quadrilateral, is 360 degrees. Okay, so they're asking us which of the following equations shows how the measures of the quadrilateral, right? So if we're all equal to 360, they've given us that, so we didn't have to actually know that going into this. Okay, but that's all the measures of the quadrilateral. We're just going to say 90, right? We're going to add all these up. 90 plus 2x minus 5, right? Plus x plus 35 plus x is equal to 360. So let's see if we find that here. 90 plus 2x minus 5. Yeah, it's just a, right? So they've just done this in a different order, but we have plus x here, which is here. We have plus 90, which is here. Plus 2x minus 5 here, and plus x plus 35. Yep, so we got to be answer choice A for this one. Okay? I'm going to skip number 6. I don't know, on the first 5 questions, I either had a figure or the question was extremely straightforward. Did everybody see that? But when I get to number 6 now, it's not nearly as straightforward. There's a lot going on here, so I'm going to skip that one and come back to it for pass number 2. On 7, I can see right away that these are in y equals mx plus b. So I see the line. This should be really straightforward. The moment that you see the word line in the question, you should say y equals mx plus b. Write that out on your paper. Okay, in the xy plane, line L has a slope of 2. Okay, so y is equal to 2x plus b. That's line L. Line K is perpendicular to line L and contains this point. So it's perpendicular, meaning that this new one is negative 1/2 x plus b. Okay, so this is line L, and this is line K, and the reason I knew that it was perpendicular, or what a perpendicular line is because it has the opposite reciprocal slope. If this is 2 over 1, then you get negative 1/2. You flip it, and then you put a negative out front, negative reciprocal slope. So this is y equals negative 1/2 x, right, plus b. I'm also given a point here, so we're looking for the equation of line k. First and foremost, I can eliminate a and b because those aren't going to be right. And now I can just plug in that point. So I get 2 is equal to, right, we have an xy point of 4, 2, so we can just plug that in. 2 is equal to negative 1/2 times 4 plus b. 2 equals negative 2 plus b. B is equal to 4, so here we have answer choice D for number 7. Okay, let's see here. Given the equation, which equation correctly expresses y in terms of c and x? Okay, so this one should again be really straightforward. Okay, if we know that we're searching for y, you guys can see that if you see the term in terms of, right, y in terms of the other variables, it just means they want you to rework the equation. So we have c is equal to x over y, write everything out. I always like to rewrite things. It makes it way less likely that you make a simple mistake if you even just rewrite the exact equation. Now we're looking for y in terms of x. You can kind of see that. So we get times y over 1 times y over 1, right? And we get x is equal to, no, we're multiplying by, sorry about that, guys. We're solving for y, not x. Right? C equals y, so we're going to say, we'll do that again. Yeah, c, y. We can multiply by y and then just divide times y. Right? And then we're going to divide by c, so y is just equal to x over c for number 8. These are, I mean, if you knew how to do that one, how easy is that question? The key to this is they're trying to get students to be worried about number 8. Because there's so much going on. But if you identify these questions, right? Like on number 7, I knew this was going to be easy because it was a line problem. It was linear equations, y equals mx plus b. Does everybody see that? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you see that? That if you ever see the words in terms of, or I brought up equivalent earlier, or I saw the word line in the question, I know how easy those questions are going to be. And the beauty of the SAT math section is that you can do this all. I've never seen the May 2021 no calculator section. But these are the same problems that have shown up on the SAT math section for the last 5 years. They're always the same. So it doesn't really matter if you haven't seen the test before. On the math section for the SAT, if you do these things that we've been talking about, both with the 3-pass method and with using Star U to identify these questions, it becomes very straightforward. Same thing in number 9, right? I see the word linear function, which is the same thing as the line. Every time I see linear function, I write out y equals mx plus b. It just helps me stay focused. Okay, the y-intercept of the graph is 0, negative 12. So here we have y equals mx and minus 12, right? Because that's f of x. And we know that this is, right, 0, comma, negative 12. That's where the y-intercept goes with b, right? So y equals, what is the value of the graph of y of x plus 2? Y equals f of x plus 2. Well, if we know that this right here, right, is y equals f of x, and we're looking for just plus 2 on this one, then we're just going to add 2, right? That's all that's happening here. We're just adding 2, and we should have y equals mx minus 10. So I think the answer should be, what is the y-intercept of the graph? Yeah, it's always going to be 0, so we could have eliminated c and d. Remember that y-intercept means that x has to be 0, so c and d could have immediately been eliminated just with that knowledge. Okay, just with that knowledge. I'm going to skip number 10. There's a lot going on in number 10. Number 11 is really straightforward. They give us a graph. If we know our graphs of functions, 11 should be pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Okay, the graph of y equals 2 to the x minus a is shown where a is a constant. What is the value of a? Okay, well, if we know, right, we know y equals 2 of x. If we want to look where that's going to cross the line, well, if I plug in 0, right, for x, I get 0, comma 1, because anything raised to the 0 power is 1, so y would be 1. Okay, so we can go up here, and when I plug in 0 for x, I get 1. And it looks like I've dropped down, how many units, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's subtracting 4. And so a then, right, if I usually start this graph when there's no minus a on, just y equals 2 over x, 2 to the x, I get my point at 0, 1. But when I add, right, when I plug in a and I get this graph, now I'm at 0, comma, negative 3. And so that means that a is dropping the graph by 4 units for number 11. If you have a really strong understanding of coordinate systems, right, and the ability to be able to plug in x, y, remember the graph is always about the x, y variables. if you remember that and you know that, that question should be pretty straightforward. So I think the answer there for number 11 is A. One thing to bring up here at this point in the test, okay, so now as we get to 12, 13, 14, and 15, we have to remember that these four questions, 12 through 15, are almost exclusively level 3 out of 3 questions, right? Hard questions. And so in terms of this past one idea where you're only finding the easy ones, my recommendation at this point would be to go to number 16. Because when you restart the free response questions, 16 and 17 are easier, right? So you can look at 12 through 15, but one thing to consider is to just jump right to 16 where the questions are going to start being easier again, and then you don't have to lose your momentum on 12 through 15. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense, that concept, that idea? You don't have to lose any momentum because now right back here, right, we just have another y equals mx plus b. That's not very hard compared to what 12, 13, 14, and 15 were probably going to look like. So we have y equals mx plus b, right? And now we have, in this case, y equals 1/2 x. So we know the slope. We're given the slope. And in this case, we're given an xy coordinate, right? In this case, it's the x-intercept, -6, 0. And so if that's on the line, right? If that's on the line, it intersects the x-axis, meaning it's a point on the x-axis. We can just plug that in. So we get 0 is equal to 1/2 times -6 plus b. I'm just literally plugging in x and y into my equation here. Okay? So I get 0 equals -3 plus b. So add 3 on both sides. So b is just equal to +3. Okay, that question was very, very straightforward in relation to what we were probably going to see on 12 through 15. Okay, right here, I mentioned this, I can't stress this enough, and I'm going to just repost this real quick. You can see how many linear equation problems there are on this test. Like, we've written out y equals mx plus b probably 6 times already, and we haven't even looked at every problem. Linear equations, most important lesson chapter. Applications. Okay, so if you guys are looking, for how to master linear equations, on the free section of the Star U app, just go to Applications of Linear Equations. All of this stuff is right there. Okay, so right away we have y equals mx plus b. We might not need it, but anytime I see the word line, linear equation, or I get a graph of a line, like we see here on 17, I'm going to write that out. For part of a trip, a car traveled directly away from the starting point at a constant speed. The graph shows the times, 2.5 hours after. So what is the speed of car miles per hour during this part of the trip? So from the 2 to 2.5 hour mark, they travel, right, in this time frame. They go in miles per hour. So we've only gone half, right? We've gone how many miles, right? X mph over 1 mile. Oh, sorry. X. What was speed? Let me see. X miles, right, in 1 hour. That's miles per hour. Is equal to, looks like they go 110 to 135, so that's 25 miles. They go 25 miles, right, in half an hour, in 1/2 hour. So we can just double that, right? We'd expect it to be 50. Does everybody see that? Can everybody see that? Okay, so if you go at 25 miles in half an hour, then we'd expect to go 50 miles in 1 hour. Right? We can just double it, so that value right here is just 50. We didn't need y equals mx plus b there, but who knows, right? We may have needed it. The graph of the given. So this is a really easy question if you know the circle equation. If you know how to complete the square. Number 18 is a really easy question, and because you can't guess on the free response questions. Once you go to question number 16, I would try to do as many of those free response questions as you can. If you really don't know the problem, then obviously you have to move on. But if you know how to do these, even if you run out of time and we spend the rest of the time 18, 19, and 20, at least we can guess on the questions that we skipped beforehand. So the free response questions, if there's any such thing as a question being of more value, it would be on the free response solely because you can't guess. So you do want to try to answer as many of those as you can because you're not going to be able to fill in a bubble choice. It's 1 in a million that you get a free response question right versus 1 in 4 that you get a multiple choice right. And if you've seen our guessing technique, it's actually probably better than 1 and 4. So we want to try to get as many of these done as we can. We get x squared minus 8x. We're going to complete the square. I don't have time to explain all of that right now, but I'm going to divide plus 16. So I get x, and if I add 16 on that side, I get to add 16 up there. X minus 4 quantity squared plus y minus 5. Yeah, y minus 5 quantity squared. I got to add 25 on this side. So I get 16 plus 25 is 41, so 81. So this is going to be equal to 81 on that side. So 81. And this is, so if you guys know the circle equation, and it's also on star U if you don't, under the more circles question, right? R squared is the value that's on the right side of the circle equation, so R is equal to 9. R squared is equal to 81, so R is equal to 9. What is the sum of the solutions of the equations above? Is that the easiest question ever, or do I have to solve it using the quadratic formula? I think I have to use a quadratic formula here, don't I? Because plus 7. I think I have to come back because I think it's gonna be weird values. Okay, this shouldn't be too bad. A is a constant. X to the 6, where x, what is the value of a? Okay, so the expression is equivalent, right? So I can do 20. This isn't gonna be very hard. X cubed, right, raised to the a powered. You guys have to see how I skipped number 19 because I think it's gonna be the quadratic formula that I have to use. 20 is a really straightforward problem if you know the rule for this one, right? If that's equal to x to the 6th, then what we need to do here is we need to convert this and say that instead of the square root of x cubed, we're going to say x cubed raised to the 1/2 power, because that's what square rooting is, raised to the a. Okay, from there we get x, and then we multiply all of these values together. So 3 times 1/2 times a, right, is just 3a over 2 is equal to x to the 6th. Okay, so then we get we get 3a over 2 is equal to 6. 3a is equal to 12, so a is equal to 4. So again, we're going to come back to 19 on this one, and we'll circle it as we go. We'll come back to 19, but I think we got all the other ones right. So let's go back to the beginning. There were a couple easy ones. I think number 6 shouldn't be too hard, but I remember we skipped it. And now we come back, right? Let's make sure we got 1 through 5. Yep, that's good. So now we're going back through the test to find questions that we haven't answered yet. With 19 having a little bit more, right? 19 is going to be hard. 12 through 15 are going to be hard. So 19 is going to have a little bit more prevalence, I think, than the other ones. I got to move, though. I just realized I only have 6 minutes left. In the right triangle, okay, I like right triangles, so this one shouldn't take very long. AC is 12. Okay. Angle A is 40 degrees. So that's 40, let's say. This is A, this is C. Nope, that's not what I should do, actually. Let's say this is C. Change this up, guys. Just rewrite my question here. This is going to be B. And this is going to be A. This is going to be 40. AC is 12. B is the right angle. God. B, right? This is C. Dang it, guys. So that has to be the hypotenuse. 12 is the hypotenuse. This is really bad. 12 is a right angle, which the volume can be determined. The measure of angle C, we have 40 degrees here. Should be able to determine everything, right? 50 degrees up here. The length of AB. Yeah, 6 should be C. If we have 2 angles and a hypotenuse, if we have all 3 angles in the hypotenuse, we can just use trig functions, right, to solve for that. So you can absolutely solve for everything within that triangle with 3 angles and a side length. So that one's pretty straightforward, I think. 10, which of the following x-intercepts the graph in the xy plane? X-intercepts. Yeah, so think about this, guys. X-intercepts, remember, this is where it's so valuable. Y is equal to 0 when when you're looking for the intercept of x. So you get 0. If we multiply the x out, right, we get x plus 3, because anything times 0 is just 0. So we can multiply this, and now we just get x plus 3 times x minus 2. We get x is equal to negative 3, comma 2. Right, so negative 3 and 2, just be 1 and 2 only for number 10. Right, that one's pretty straightforward, thankfully, because I made up some time there. 12 doesn't look as hard as I maybe originally thought, just because there is a figure here. Let's see. 200 represents the relationship between body length and tailbone. This one's way easier, right? Because if this is body length, L, we can just plug in values. It looks like we have 15 and 5 here. Does everybody see that? So if I plug in 15 for length, I should expect to get 5. And while this one seems maybe difficult, if we know that 15 squared, right, because that's what all of these are squared, is equal to 225, so we're looking for 5 is equal to some value, so let's say value, right, times 225, because that's what 15 squared is. So what would I need to multiply that by to get to 5? Probably 0.2, right? Does everybody see that for 12? That's the only one that works. If I plug in just 15 as x and 5 as y, because that's my value right here, that's where that xy thing that I was talking about earlier, the better knowledge you have of graphs, the better you're going to do on this test. The solution of the given equation, what is the value of x? Okay, let's see. So we're looking for the x value, so we think we should multiply down x minus 4y equals 7, 3x plus 6y equals 12. Which one's going to be easier? Probably times 3 up here, times, oh yeah, it gives us an x2, times 2. So I get 24x minus 12y equals 21, and 6x plus 12y equals 24. I'm going to add these down. 30x is equal to 45 divided by x. X equals 1.5. Okay. Oops, divided by 30 rather. Divided by 30, so x is equal to 45 over 30, just so you guys can see how I did that. 45 over 30 is equal to 1.5. I keep going here. Let's see. In the given system equation, k is a constant, so it's exactly one solution. So if it says exactly one solution, it means that the slopes are going to be different. So it's got to be 5. That one's super easy if you know what one solution means. It means that the slopes k has to be different than that 2 here. If it says no solutions, then the k's are the same, right? Because it's parallel lines. That helped me so much as I keep moving. That is a very common question, and that's also in the linear equation section of Star U. Okay, let's see. The given function models the number of flower beetles in a certain area, which is the number of days after June. Finding the best interpretation of 1.1. That's the rate increase. 1.1 is 11%. Model predicts that, or approximately 1.1 flowers in the area. No. Predicts the number of flower beetles in the area increase by approximately 1.1 each day. No. That would be a linear thing. No, it's a factor. It grows by a factor of 1.1. All right, let's see if I can get to 19 real quick. I think that's the last one we have. Come on. Now, of course, this is time. Okay, so let's see. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What is that? So it's 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 28 all over 2. 36 minus 20 is 8. 6 plus or minus the square root of 8. What is this sum? I'm missing something with some equation above. Did I miss something? 2 times 1, 36. Let's see. 4 times 1 times 6. Square root of 8. 2 root 2. How am I getting the square root of 2? Sorry guys, I know the time just ran out. Why am I missing this one too? Oh, you know couldn't we use negative b over 2a? Is that right? 6 over 2 is equal to 3. Is there only one solution? That doesn't work, does it? And times 2? There's 2 solutions is equal to 6. I don't know if that works or not. Oh yeah, Rabab, yeah. I think that works, right? Rabab, does that work? Is the answer? I think the answer should be 6 there. Negative b, because you get negative 6. I think the answer is 6 here. I don't think I need to do the full quadratic. Is it negative b over... I can't remember. Sorry, yeah. I know, Ribab, I thought it wasn't. I think it is negative b over 2a, right? I just saw your comment there. Negative b over 2a. I think that's right. I think it's 6. And then you multiply by 2 because there's two solutions. Or maybe it's, I don't know. We're going to go with 6. Negative b over 2a did ring a bell. But maybe it's negative b over a. Anyway, guys, let's go back. Did that all make sense, though? With the exception of maybe number 19, and I say this in before, if you've seen our real-time videos before, I really need to memorize more things with the quadratic formula. There's like the question that if it's a, maybe okay, then maybe it's 3. We'll come back to that one. Number 19 might be 3, but in any case, the key to this whole thing is that number 19. I need to memorize the quadratic formula. Like I missed those. On the April 2019 real-time video is the only question I missed as well. I couldn't remember the quadratic formula. You'd think as a math tutor I'd have that on the top of my head, but I can't. And the point in that, though, there's a good lesson in that, okay? Can everybody give me a thumbs up in the realization that nobody is perfect on this? It's much more about what you know and what you don't know, okay? Like, I know that I'm not very good at the quadratic formula. Like I said when we saw that triangles problem, I know that I'm really good at right triangles. I for whatever reason, I really understand right triangles. I like thinking about right triangles. It's the weirdest thing ever. But the thing that's key in this is that I know what I don't know. And when I was a kid, when I was taking these tests as a kid, I was really good at that. Okay? I was really good about knowing what I didn't know. So can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? And the reason that's so helpful with this drill, right, or with this message, right, is that if you don't know it, if you don't know something, you have to move on. Like 19, maybe, right? I should probably go back and memorize the things that you need for the quadratic formula, including what looks like negative b over a. If it is negative b over a, I was thinking that there were two solutions, so that's why I multiplied by 2. So we may have gotten number 19 right anyway, but that was by sheer luck. Sometimes you get lucky, right? I was thinking there were two solutions because it said the sum of the solutions, so I thought maybe that they were the same. But sometimes you get lucky. The key is not about the lucky part on one question. It's about knowing that I don't really know that much about 19, but guess what? I did that one last. So if I know, and I knew that I didn't know that much, when I saw number 19, you guys heard me say, I don't really know much about this, I should skip it now. And so if I miss number 19, but I get every other question right, yeah, maybe you don't get an 800 on the math test that day, but hey, you're on the track to get a 780. And the point in all that, or 770, the point in that is that you didn't let the one question that you don't know how to do or you don't feel as comfortable about, you didn't let that one question hold you back for the rest of the test. Because everything else, I'm pretty sure we got every other question right, I think. I mean, none of the other questions felt very difficult realistically at all. And so, again, that's got to be the key, is that you move on from questions that you don't know how to do in that moment. And you sacrifice that one question so that you guarantee accuracy on the other 19, which I think we did. And we may have gotten lucky on number 19, but that was sheer luck. Sometimes it takes that. Sometimes you do get lucky, right? Sometimes your guessing letter, you guess the right letter, and it just happens to be that on one test and it's not on the next one. So that's fine if you're getting lucky on one question. It's not okay if you're stopping on number 19 when you know that's not your best topic and you have other questions still to do. That's the best thing that I can possibly reiterate as we go through this, and that's really what this 3-pass method is all about. Okay, this whole 3-pass idea is about questions like skipping 19 and knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're bad at, so that you can move on from those types of questions. This is objective. This strategy is objective. It is without doubt. You can listen to anybody that says don't skip. That's wrong. And you know that I don't say that on all of these live streams. On certain topics, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you could use on reading, you could skim. There are other strategies, but objectively speaking, mathematically speaking, it is wrong not to skip questions when every question is worth the same value, but you don't know every topic, as we saw here. Okay, so yeah, I'll come back to number 12 as well, because I know I was moving pretty quickly through those last couple questions. But let's see, let me pull up to grade it real quick, and then we'll go over 12 again. Where did I find that? Does that make sense, guys? Can everybody give me 2 thumbs up if that whole idea makes sense of of objectively speaking, skipping the questions that you don't know how to do will always benefit you. It will make it so that you don't miss other questions, hopefully, right? We didn't make any simple mistake. But you don't miss other questions just because you're worried about the one question you don't know on the test. Okay? If I missed 19, that was the last one I was going to do anyway, so I'm 19 for 19, and then maybe you missed that one, and now instead of an 800, you get a 770. But you got to be thinking that way and being okay if you're not perfect on any given day. You know, if you don't know everything on any given day. May 2021. Find the answers for. There we go. Well done. Hey, okay. Everybody ready? So let's see here. Yeah, great question. So, Rabab, great question. What I like to do, and the reason it's a phenomenal question is because you want to spend enough time to know what they're talking about. So I'd say somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds to identify the problem. Okay, like if they give you number 4, it's going to take you very, very short amount of time. And on number 19, I had to look to see if we could factor that. That's what was kind of going through my mind on 19. Once I realized that it was not easily factorable, because I'm actually good at factoring and horrible at the quadratic formula, which doesn't usually relate. That's when I knew to move on. So 15 to 30 seconds, let's say spend looking at a question. Once you identify that, and you guys know this, the reason that's such a great question is because, from Rabab there, is because, and just for anybody that's watching the recorded video, the question was, how many minutes should we spend on every question on the math SAT before moving on? The reason that's such a great question is because you know what an easy problem looks like, right? I don't think that anybody's under an illusion that when you see a good problem for you, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. When you don't have that feeling after 20 seconds of looking at the question, you kind of have to know that this isn't the best question I can be answering right now unless it's at the very end of the test. And then, then you can come back to 19. But if it's not that feeling, go through and find all the other ones first, and you can answer those questions at the end. So I'd say 15 to 30 seconds, but great question overall. All right, so I have the answers here. Let's see. Number 1 is B. Number 1 is B. 2 is C. 3 is C. I don't, unless I made a simple mistake here. 4 is C. 5 is A, 6 is C, 7 is D, 8 is D, 9 is B, those are good. 10 I felt really good about, I think, so 10 was C, yep, 11 was A, felt pretty good about that one. 12 we're going to come back to here, but yeah, 12 was A. I'll show you how I did it. There's actually a really easy way. If you remember this idea of coordinate points, right, X, Y, which again, the nice thing about this test is other than number 19, there were a significant number of graphs of functions and linear equations, which I feel really comfortable with. So I could do number 12 in kind of maybe a non-traditional way by plugging in a point here, right? I knew that this was an XY point on the line, so I'll come back to that one for 12. Let's finish grading this. 12, 13 was A, 14 was B, 15 was D. Yeah, for whatever reason, those last multiple choice actually weren't as hard as I thought they would be. 16 is 3, 17 is 50, 18 is 9, yep, no, 18 is 9. So R, remember, is 9. Radius was 9. R squared was 81 for the circle equation. We did end up getting lucky. You guys corrected me. Guys, for the record, going forward, this should be negative B over A. I got lucky because for whatever reason, isn't there something to do with negative B over 2A? Or maybe I was thinking of the period of a trig graph. I don't know what I was thinking. But then I lucked out because I thought there were 2 solutions, so I multiplied by and I answered by 2. This was lucky, but the answer is in fact 6. So I got lucky, but the answer should be negative B over A, which would give you that just generally negative B, right, which is negative 6. So negative 6 over 1 is equal to 6 over 1. So that was lucky, but we got 19 right. So we did get, I think in 20. So we got 20 out of 20. So that's great. So, and let's just mark that at the top, and then I'll come back to 12 quick. So 20 out of 20, guys. So far, we haven't missed a question on this May 2021 test, which is great. Got a little lucky on that one, but felt pretty good. Everything other than 19 felt pretty good about. So 20 for 20, so we're on a good track. For those that watch the live stream for the writing and language, you can see the playlist below, which has all of the videos for the May 2021 US test. We got 44 out of 44 doing the live stream for that. And then 12 here, guys. So 12, yeah. So who else put 12? Zanariki, I think, has 12. So yeah, so what I did here is I knew that anything that's on the line, right, a function of the line, is dictated by XY points, not the other way around. Everybody always forgets that the points are what draw the line, right? You're plugging this point in, you have a point up here, and then you're just drawing a line through those. And everybody forgets that the points are the most important thing. So what I did is I saw that there's a point right here on a 2 easy numbers, right? I saw 15 here, and that corresponds to 5. So I knew that the XY point for this line, there was a point at 15, comma 5. And then when I looked at the answer choices, I knew that all of them were the exact same, squared, 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 A. And so I knew that XY, right, was just related to A or LA, right? You guys see that? Because A is in the Y spot and L here is in the X spot. And so I just plugged it in. I just said 15, I'm sorry, I said 5, right? 5 is equal to, and then I put a value here because I didn't know what these values were going to be. So I just made that X, or I think I made it V the first time through. X times 15 squared, right? And then I did 15 squared, which I knew was 225. 5 is equal to X times 225. And then I looked at the answer choices, 225X. If I'm going to divide 5 by 225, I know that the only answer that's going to work is one that's less than 1, because that's the only thing that makes sense. And that's how I got answer choice A. Does that make sense for number 12? Yeah, 100 is the principal value, guys. So this is 15 is just a common, and this is also in Star U. So again, all of these values, this is in the growth and decay functions chapter in Star U. If you guys are looking, growth and decay functions. But this is just a common growth and decay function where you have A, which is the final value. A equals the principal value, the starting value, times 1 plus the rate of change. So that's, whatever, 1 plus the rate to the t power. That's the very standard. And then as you compound things, it changes. But that's just the standard right there, growth and decay function. So the 100 in this case right here is just equal to the starting value. You started with 100 beetles. That's what the experiment started with, and then they measured the growth from there. Does that make sense, guys? Can you all give me a thumbs up if 12 and 15 there make sense? Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, 12 and 15. Fortunately, like I said, I like those types of. I was always a pretty good Algebra 2 student. I was a good geometry student, and then as things started to get harder, I stopped working very hard, which is a tale to not do. But those questions are pretty straightforward. Like I said, that's not the first time, unfortunately, that I've struggled with a quadratic, one of those quadratic questions. So I got to get back to the drawing board and memorize that. But yet I still haven't over 2 years since we filmed the last couple that I struggled with. But yeah, in any case, guys, you got to make sure that the key to that is that, and I sometimes like when there's a question that I really struggle with on these tests, because it shows that, sometimes you get lucky, but like on the April 2019 test, I didn't get lucky and I missed the question. And at the very worst, I couldn't figure it out at the end, so I just left it blank. And yeah, I got 19 out of 20 on that, but it is what it is. At least I didn't screw up on the other 19 questions because I was so worried about the one I didn't know, despite knowing the other 19. And that's the takeaway for this strategy, is that if you skip questions that you don't know how to do and you save them to the end, if the time runs out, it's really not that big of a deal. You didn't know how to do the question anyway. It was going to be an educated guess. So if it's an educated guess then, let's make it an educated guess with a minute to go instead of 10 minutes to go, and focus on the other 19 problems that we do know how to do. That's the most important thing that we can focus on. All right, guys, so I hope this was helpful today. As always, if you have any questions, please make sure that you comment below. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and help us spread the word to your friends. Make sure you download Star U, which I think many of you guys have. And yeah, we obviously really, really appreciate the support going forward. If you guys have, post the comments and questions below these videos, and one of our teachers or myself included will respond to those. And yeah, we'll keep going with these live streams. Continue to help us spread the word, and we'll keep going. Yeah, 18 real quick. Let's just see 18. Oh, you know what? Actually, Kimberly, I'm not going to show 18 right now because it's a circle equation. It's not a quick fix. It's a memorization of the circle equation and completing the square. So I'll do that in a future video if we have time for it. But again, that's even more reason, guys, to help us spread the word about the channel, because we want to make daily videos like talking about the circle equation. To teach the circle equation, it's probably going to be a 15-minute video. And the more subscribers that we have, if you're interested in joining the membership program to help us out, it's $3 a month. And it also gives you some premium benefits like direct correspondence with me. I'll be the one that answers all your questions if you're a silver member in the program. But all those things will help us make additional videos and daily videos in the future. So I'm not going to do 18 right now. But going forward, obviously we'd love to make videos like that on maybe every topic that's covered on the SAT math section. All right? So guys, I hope, you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we'll see you guys for the next live stream. It'll either be tomorrow, Thursday, or it'll be next week. And we'll try to finish up this May 2021 test depending on timing. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Have a great night wherever you are in the world. Whoever's in Azerbaijan, again, welcome to the channel, and first person we've had from Azerbaijan, so that's great. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, and we'll see you for the next live stream. Thanks, guys.